So I wanted to pull something out because it has everything to do with black people. Are you guys both aware that both Joe Biden and Donald Trump have a black agenda?
Yes, but I want to read more. Honestly, I want to read more about it before we discuss it. But
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to just read a little bit of each one, and we could talk about it down the line, you know. But Biden's plan is called the Lift Every Voice, the Biden Plan for Black America. And it starts off like this. It says, Joe Biden knows that African Americans can never have a fair shot at the American dream so long as entrenched disparities are allowed to quietly chip away at opportunity. He's running for president to rebuild our economy in a way that finally brings everyone along, and that starts by rooting our systemic racism from our laws, our policies, our institutions, and our hearts. This mission is more important now than ever before, as the health and economic impacts of COVID-19 have shined a light on and cruelly exacerbated the disparities long faced by African Americans. In April 2020, Biden called on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to collect more data regarding how COVID-19 is affecting communities, including breaking down its impact by race. I'm going to skip down a little bit, and he has this to say. The Biden plan for Black America will, number one, advance the economic mobility of African Americans and close the racial wealth and income gaps. Number two, expand access to high quality education and tackle racial inequity in our education system. Number three, make far-reaching investments in ending health disparities by race. Number four, strengthen America's commitment to justice. Number five, make the right to vote and the right to equal protection real for African Americans. And lastly, address environmental justice. So he wants to advance the economic mobility of African Americans and close the racial gap, which he has a plan saying that approximately 4% of small business owners are African American, even though African Americans make up approximately 13% of the population. So he has a plan on how he would like to double the funding for state small business credit initiatives. He states how the Obama-Biden administration created the state small business credit initiative, and it was to support small businesses, driving $10 billion in new lending for each $1 billion in small business credit initiative funds. He wants to drive by 2025 about $3 billion in federal funding, driving close to $30 billion in private sector. Next, he wants you to buy a house, and there's going to be a credit. If you're going to be a first-time buyer, you could get up to $15,000 to purchase your first home. He wants to increase the opportunities for African-American owned businesses to obtain or participate in federal contracts, which means that he wants more black business owners to partner up with the government and get some of that money that they can print. Economic relief for COVID-19 for black businesses. And I already told you guys about the homeowner tax cut. He wants to roll back a lot of Trump administration policies, gutting fair lending and fair housing protections for homeowners, give local elected officials the tools and resources that they need to combat gentrification. As you guys know, gentrification is when they come into your neighborhood and they remake the entire thing. There's good and bad that come with gentrification. It's not all bad, but it's not all good either, depending on who you are and where you live. One of the things that might be good for us is he wants to forgive all undergraduate tuition-related federal student debt from 2 to 4 year public colleges for debt holders earning up to $125,000. This will also apply to individuals holding federal student loans for tuitions from private HBCUs and MSIs. He wants to forgive loan payments for individuals making $25,000 or less per year. and capping loan payments at 5% of discretionary income for those making more. And let me come down here a little bit more. He wants to make far-reaching investments in ending health disparities by race. As you know, there is an insurance problem and access to healthcare when it comes into certain communities, mainly because of economic reasons. He wants to build a diverse pipeline of healthcare professionals by investing in healthcare graduate programs at HBCUs and MSIs. As part of the Biden's more than $70 billion investment in HBCUs and MSIs, he'll invest $5 billion in graduate programs in healthcare, along with teaching STEM at HBCUs. He wants to strengthen Americans' commitment to justice. Our criminal justice system cannot be just unless we root out the racial, gender, and income-based disparities in the system. This is all directly, by the way, from JoeBiden.com. He wants to end the criminalization of poverty. Cash bail is the modern-day debtor's prison. Biden will lead a national effort to end cash bail and reform our pretrial system, putting in place instead a system that is fair and does not inject further discrimination or bias into the process. He wants to stop companies from profiteering off of incarceration, which you guys already know about. And if you don't, you can watch and understand a little bit more by watching Ava DuVernay's 13 on Netflix, and also do some more reading and research for yourself. I wouldn't take all of my facts and everything from a single movie, but
the 13th.
The 13th. Thank you. And let's see here. And lastly, he wants to address environmental justice. It says here, Biden knows we cannot turn a blind eye to the way in which environmental burdens and beliefs have been and will continue to be distributed unevenly along racial and socioeconomic lines, not just with respect to climate change, but also pollution of our air, water, and land. He talks about how he's getting some information from the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America and how it affects your body, how it affects your life. And I noticed that he's very big on, the planet. Okay, so that is just an overview of what Joe Biden has to offer. I thought it was very important that we speak a little bit about it because we're about a month away from Election Day, and I know some people have seen Trump's and said, I want to know more about Biden's. When is he going to put one out? And he has one, and it's called the Lift Every Voice and Sing. If you guys don't know too much about it, Biden's overall plan is to pump about $150 billion into the Black community, to help businesses grow, to help go to schools, as you heard, environmental and healthcare. Okay.
Right on.
Trump's is called the Platinum Plan. Kind of like that because it's like
he's just gonna put the beep through the whole thing.
It sounds like he's selling records. Like, yeah, we went platinum. So the first thing it says is Trump's pillars. Number 1, opportunity, security, prosperity, and fairness. The first one says, by achieving historic employment levels for Black Americans, as well as increasing access to capital for new businesses, President Trump has been committed to ensuring all Black Americans can achieve the American dream. Number 2, security says, by signing into law the celebrated First Step Act, President Trump has brought common sense criminal justice reform to the American people for the first time in decades, while ensuring that our streets and communities are safe for families and business owners. And by the way, this comes directly from Trump's website. The next one says prosperity. As the first president to provide long-term funding to historically Black colleges and universities, the administration continues to seek immediate and generational advancement for Black Americans. Fairness, as demonstrated through his actions to initiate investment into opportunity zones, as well as address health disparities, wage gaps, and necessary education reforms, President Trump works every day to advance a fair and just America for the Black community. So here are a few of his talking points. It says here, President Trump, his promise to Black America over the next 4 years. Number one, increase access to capital in black communities by almost $500 billion. 300 million new jobs for the Black community, creating 500,000 new Black-owned businesses. Increase access to capital in Black communities by almost $500 billion. Sorry, reread that. Safe urban neighborhoods with highest policing standards. Commit to working on a second step act. Access to better education and job training opportunities. Give Black churches the ability to compete for federal resources for their community. Bring better and tailored healthcare to address historic disparities. Immigration policy that protects American jobs. Advance home ownership opportunities and enhance financial literacy in the Black community. Onshoring manufacturing to advance jobs and develop opportunities for Black-owned businesses. It literally says jobs, jobs, jobs. He invest almost $20 billion toward broadband and internet access to create job opportunities, improving classroom connectivity, and the ability to utilize telehealth services. That is the bottom of a lengthy list. Fueling access to capital for Black business owners. It's a good list right there as well. Safe streets as far as safety and justice. Better and cheaper healthcare. Reducing the costs and improve access to quality healthcare through HRSA. Deliver real price transparency so you know the cost before care is received. I wish, on a side note, I wish I had something like that before, because I had a surgery one time and it was $100,000. I had no clue. Federal, state, and local community partnership to close failing schools to replace with full school choice and education opportunity to put American parents back in control over the children's futures. Increase child care tax credits and provide greater accessibility to qualify preschool. Education African Americans can afford. Continue to protect the vital role of historically Black colleges and universities. Advance target apprenticeship and job training programs. And lastly, prosperous Black communities. Champion federal policy reforms to advance home ownership initiatives. Make Juneteenth a national holiday. Prosecute the KKK and Antifa as terrorist organizations and making lynching a national hate crime. Fuel Black farmers and access to healthy foods to address food disparities. Defend religious liberty and African American churches that lift the conscience of our nation, and collaborate with our cities and counties to address mental illness and substance abuse. Now, I thought it was important that I read that and not give a single opinion, because when it comes to being Black, when it comes to being in this nation, I think it's important to understand what initiatives are being done, what systems are being sent our way, what dollars are being sent our way. And not only that, I don't necessarily think it's important to only focus on the money. I know I'm saying that sounds crazy, but there is power in information. And how can you offer our people in our community the most money and the most information to keep your hands off of it? By that, I mean for us to generate it, regenerate it, regrow it, and not stop there. So I wanted to just give that information. I noticed around social media this past week, there has been just a lack of people knowing that they exist, that these plans exist. And I wanted to put it out there because, like I said, information is power. So that's my segment on that.
Thanks, Kelby.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad they both exist. There's no scenario in which I vote for Donald Trump. So
Same
no,
for
you
me.
don't have to vote for anybody that I think anybody endorses, But I did want to just put the information out there. Sure. That way we know it exists and nobody could say that they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.